I'm testing this recording for Topsy Pro to see how good it is and see how good this recording is. I'm in a public cafe, so I'm not sure if the ambient noise might be a problem. Hi, I'm going to start this video about Topsy Pro. Um, this is a platform that's really a search engine, and when you get your authentication, I think it costs like $1,000 a month if you're going to really use it full time, but I'm testing it out for 2 weeks, been through 1 week. And when you first start, you really don't have anything. It's basically a search engine. Um, so, but as you see, you can actually look at if you fill this information in ahead of time, and they have that in settings, you can actually put in your brands and your competitors and your company and your tweets and so on, and get some reports that are actually set up for you ahead of time. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to load a couple of topics one at a time and look at them to see what I can learn. In this case, I am often in Providence, so I want to look at um, what Topsy Pro might have for me, regarding that. So um, that's what I'm looking at right now, and it's about to pull in some stuff. So the data that Topsy Pro put in really is all about it's all stuff that's in Twitter, but it could also be links and other um, videos, any other metadata that's on top of Twitter actually gets. But one of the things is if while you have the last hour, last 12 hours, you can go back to say specific range, 2 years. You can actually go back 3 years. So I'm looking at the Water Fire Festival that happens in Providence, and you can kind of see some of the um, tweets that have been used in conjunction, like NN12 was Netwitch 12, burning Game of Thrones, downtown Providence. One of the things about Topsy Pro is that in spite of the fact that it's a search engine, sometimes it does take longer to get a response. So I would say, particularly in a geolocation area, but you can see that using these keywords that I put in, uh, and I wanted to be careful not to put in too many things because even Waterfly can get some noise. I wanted to see what the volume would be. So it breaks down how much volume and which hashtags are associated. You can actually add these to your query if you want, and also some of the videos and photos that were mentioned. You can also look at either original tweets or retweets. So you can, if you want to just look at retweets, uh, you can do that. So you can see how many terms are retweeted. But let's go back to original tweets. You can also look at locations. Say, let's type in New York City. You can even put New York City. Uh, New York, New York, New York, New York, New York to see how much of this might be. And actually, it doesn't, really work so well in every case when you do that. But in theory, it can work well. But when you look at all locations, you can see the data. And as I said, you can go back 3 years, or you can do it up to the hour. I think let's stay around 90 days because that seems to be a good period of time where you can get all of the various reports up here in a reasonable amount of time. Whereas when we start to expand out the timeline, it sometimes it can be slower, which is understood based on the type of thing. I mean, I think here you've got a chart of all of the top activity where there might be spikes in activity. So you can, perhaps go down and see which tweets have really been spiking activity. Of course, this helps if you know what's actually going on. But and they've also got an acceleration here, which is interesting, and the peak of 33 days ago, they can tell you when these things peaked, and if you could go to discovery, I believe this will tell you the keywords and the topics and the hashtags that are interesting. Barnaby Evans is the founder of Waterfire. It's like 20 years ago he founded it. It's a big guy here in Providence. But you can look at various keywords and hashtags that are discovered around. This is the equivalent of a word cloud, I suppose, but with a context. You could do this by relevance, or you could do this by acceleration. Like, let's see if you look at what topics accelerated quickly. Um, you know, and you can again add any of these to the top, and you can kind of see some of the things that have been discovered, and you can even do this by tweets. And I'm not quite sure what that's going to show you, but it may show you something. You know, which tweets have gotten the most. If you look at influencers, it's your typical kind of readout, the similar kind of thing you get in Sysomos or some of the others. They have their own influence algorithm, and I recognize many of these people as people that I've had, you know, met in some cases when I've come up here. You can kind of see, and perhaps you can also click all-time influencers. Um, this would be over I guess, the entire index, a period of over 3 years. Um, and then the top results. Amanda Palmer is a well-known musician that's done something here a couple times, and you can kind of see which one of the tweets has done the best. You can look at geography, which is, you know, you not only tweets, but you can do links, photos, and videos. But I didn't really focus on that. But let's just look at geography. And this is where I do have a little bit of a beef with Topsy Pro, because number one, it takes a while at times for the geolocation to load, and in a lot of cases, when you're looking at a year or two, it just doesn't. It doesn't load. It just hangs. But you know, if you want to go down and look a little bit more detail, you know, you might say, all right, let me look at the Netherlands. Like, I would expect to see that tweets that, you know, their algorithm kind of looks for things that it thinks are nearby, or, you know, are these people really in the places you think they are? And it says Netherlands 31, but you know, if you go and click on the links themselves, you would expect that these people are either saying or retweeting that, you know, something that would indicate that they're in the Netherlands. And the question is that the case? And it doesn't seem always to be the case. So while there is a sense of location here, it's not necessarily what one would have expected. But nonetheless, I think if you write queries, as I suggested in the beginning of the post, for areas, you can create triggers around them. So it seems to me like, as far as Twitter and what might be connected to Twitter, you can certainly do a lot with Topsy Pro if Twitter is what you primarily think is the most important thing. If you're a TV, if you're a network, if you're a business that's expecting a news business of some kind, that, you know, maybe Twitter is where most of your momentum and most of your commentary will come from. So maybe having a platform like Topsy Pro makes a lot of sense, you know, simply because, you know, you can see, and again, I have to come almost poor. You almost have to, you know what you're kind of looking for in order to get anything out of these tools. That's, you know, it is the strength and the weakness of most of the analytics tools, and I'll certainly be talking about that in some of my public appearances later this year. I mean, these look very nice, but of course the sentiment analysis here has the same problem it does everywhere else, which is, in a lot of cases, the negatives, when they talk about a negative at all, when you can get the topic at all here, you know, you can clearly see this is not negative, you know, but it goes in there. You know, might say, I guess there's a fire So that might be negative, but in some cases when you do get a readout of a tweet, it doesn't seem like it's really, um, you know, telling you anything. Um, so I think the answer is that this platform can be useful depending on the kind of business you are and what you want out of the data. Um, there's sentiment, there's languages, there's influence, and you can put in a specific URL like I don't know, GoPro. I don't know. Maybe there's something like Mashable. You know, I don't know. That always seems to have some presence. If you do that, and you might find some. Um, you can kind of see if any particular website or anybody said anything. In this case, I doubt you're going to find anything. But if you have a particular web domain, let's say Facebook, is example, you can see when Facebook's been mentioned on Twitter. Um, but ultimately, again, I think these platforms have some value depending on what your business is, what your purposes are. And I will put the rest of my stuff in writing. Cheers.